Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the live stream with the Sierra routes. I'm Delisa. I am a recent graduate of UT, and I majored in biology. Do y'all want to introduce yourselves, Summon and Maddie?
Yeah, hi, I'm Summon. I'm a recent graduate of UT, and I just graduated with a degree in public health.
Hi, I'm Madeline. I also recently just graduated from UT with a major in international relations and global studies. Yeah, so I'm excited for our ride today.
Me too. We're going to start off like we normally start off every Texas 4000 event with ride dedications, and to show y'all a little bit about why we do them and how to make a ride dedication, we're going to show this short little video clip.
Texas 4000 is the largest annual charity bike ride that takes place every summer from Austin to Anchorage, Alaska, with the purpose of spreading our mission of hope, knowledge, and charity in the fight against cancer. A ride dedication is a way that we start a lot of our meetings or a lot of our rides. This is when we dedicate a ride or a part of our ride to somebody who has been in some way affected by cancer.
A ride dedication is motivation to me because when I'm going up a steep hill or it's been a really long ride, the ride dedications that I hear from my teammates and myself are the reasons that I keep riding.
Due to the current circumstances surrounding COVID-19, it's no longer safe for us to do our typical bicycle ride from Austin, Texas to Anchorage, Alaska. So instead, we've decided to do things virtually this summer.
So we will be having our cycling events virtually. We will be engaging with our community virtually.
A virtual ride dedication works largely the same way as a normal ride dedication. Before every meeting or before every virtual ride, you would say, I ride for this person. And if you want to, you can go into a little bit more detail about how that person touched your life.
You can submit your ride dedications via 3 different platforms. You can submit a ride dedication via the Texas 4000 webpage. You can join our Facebook live stream, or you can join our Zoom calls.
The virtual ride will be going on from May 29th to June 26th, and ride dads will be held before host interactions in the afternoon and at 7:30 to 8 a.m. Central Time every morning.
Thank you so much for participating.
Join us at texas4000.org. Together we can make a difference.
So yeah, if y'all have any ride dedications, like the video said, please feel free to comment on this Facebook live stream as well as the YouTube live stream if you have any, and we'll make sure to show them up here on the screen. But I guess to start, I ride for, some of the initial people that I ride for are my Tia Tommy, who battled non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and a really influential high school teacher of mine, Mr. Trejo, who also died of a metastatic tumor.
Yeah, I can go next. So I joined Texas 4000 for my dad, who had lung cancer. And I also ride for the kids at Camp Kesem. In undergrad, I was a counselor for Camp Kesem. And unfortunately, we couldn't have camp this year, but it was a great experience. And I'm riding for them. And I'm also riding for my 2020 teammates.
Me too.
Yeah, I'd also like to ride for my Nana. She's the original reason I joined Texas 4000. She passed away when I was a freshman in high school from melanoma when she was 64, and she's really motivated me throughout this whole ride year to just push through every obstacle. So riding for her today.
Thank you, Megan. We will be always riding for Lulu. Thank you for that.
No, we'll definitely be riding for her. Sorry to hear that. Burzen says he has a ride dead from his friend Melissa, and riding for her Aunt Rosa, who beat breast cancer. So yay, that's amazing news.
I'm riding for my family friend Mariam, who just graduated high school. Or wait, no, sorry, that was last year, but she's great and I'm riding for her.
I actually have one. A couple days ago, the Sierra Route met with some of our hosts in San Francisco and Napa, California, two cities that we would have seen had we gone on the ride in person. And it was the most amazing experience meeting with our hosts and just seeing how much preparation they put into, preparing for us to arrive, and, how excited they were to meet us, and, just the same way back. We were so excited to meet and engage with them. So some ride deads from Shelly in Napa. She's riding for both her parents and her mother-in-law, and Shelly Menenghetti, and the other Shelly, who's the San Francisco host, is riding for her mom, Diane and Suzanne. So we are riding always for our hosts and those that they lost to cancer as well.
So Scott says, please ride for Dustin, a cancer survivor and now a proud father of a little boy. That's awesome.
That's so amazing.
Kerry says that she'd like to ride for her friend Hugh, who was diagnosed during COVID. He had to go through surgery and recovery on his own. We're all riding for him as well, Kerry.
Riding for all patients having to go through treatments and diagnosis during this trying time. Yes, riding for all of our hosts. Thanks, Ray.
I'd also like to ride for all the kids getting treatment through Texas Children's right now. We had a Zoom call with the representative of Texas Children, and we've always been like good partnership with them. So it was good to kind of connect with them still virtually, and just want to ride for all the kids there that are going through treatment right now.
I'm also riding for just my team in general and all of the resiliency and just inspiration that I've seen from, or I've gotten from them during these past couple of weeks doing this virtual ride. Everything is alternative, even though things didn't pan out the way that we might have hoped. Just seeing everybody still really engaging in the virtual rides and being able to spread hope and knowledge and charity through even more communities than we probably would have reached in person is just, it's so motivating to me. And I love just seeing how still hearing those stories, and it just reminds me that just because we're in this weird time with the pandemic doesn't mean cancer has stopped, and so neither have we. And it makes me happy thinking about my team, and I always ride for them.
Mm-hmm. I also want to make a ride dedication to all my friends who recently are about to either start medical school or in medical school or work in healthcare settings. I know this is a really trying time, but it's also a really important time. And yeah, I'm just like amazed by their resilience and their willingness to sacrifice a lot for patients.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Fareed.
I definitely also like to ride for our teammate Colin's mother, Terry, who passed away last week from a long battle. So we were able to meet her. She came to one of our meetings, and she was such a light, and just want to ride for him and his family. And he's always been such a role model to all of us. I know that. So thinking about him.
Definitely.
I also think that our Brave the Shave event, Delisa, thank you for putting that together. That was really inspiring as well.
Oh, Clip Out Cancer. I know it was such a joy to put on and see some of our teammates, endure this shave to stand in solidarity with those fighting cancer. I think it was a really great way to kick off the event.
Definitely.
I have another ride debt. I know it's something that I learned through a lot of my my teammates as I joined Texas 4000, but riding always for bike safety and just staying safe on the road, because sometimes it can get overlooked, and it's something that's just utterly really, really important. And riding always for safety and the safety of those on the road. So. And just a reminder, if you do have a ride dead, you can comment in the Facebook live stream or on the Texas 4000 website or in the YouTube live stream. And I think it's so crazy that I joined this organization with, a limited number of ride dedications. Like, I had the 3 people that I ride for consistently, but then it's been such a joy to be able to meet all of my teammates and hear their why I rides and during each meeting, and add them to my little list of ride dedications, and being able to carry those stories on every Saturday ride and riding for my ride group and everybody they ride for. And it's really, really grown, and it just makes me really happy to help out my teammates in that way and kind of say, I stand with you, and I'm listening, and I will, carry your story all the way to Anchorage. So it's been really nice.
Yeah, what Delisa said is really true. You start Texas 4000 with one person or a small group of people that you want to ride with, and over your time in the organization, that list just grows longer and longer. Every time we would panhandle, which is we would be at a specific intersection and ask for donations. Within 1 hour of panhandling, I'd have 5 more people that I would ride for, and people really do resonate with the mission. And I'm really grateful that so many different people have opened up and poured out their hearts into the mission.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
So Ross says to please ride for his Uncle Phil, who passed away from a long battle with kidney cancer in 2018. So we'll definitely be riding for him today. I think that was the cool part about Ride Deads. Every week we'd come in and we'd spend at least 30 minutes just in meeting, all 70 of us just going through, and everyone was always so attentive, and it felt like such a safe space to dedicate, share good news together, share, or help each other when it's not so good news. So that was really got me through my weeks and long meetings, honestly.
Me
yeah,
too.
Maddie,
Oh, what
Go
were you
ahead,
going to say,
Lisa.
something?
No, I was just agreeing. Yeah.
I was just going to say that, my favorite part of meetings was, those 20-minute sections where 2 riders each meeting would give their why I ride. Every time I was crying at the end of each one. And it was just, I felt so much more connected to that person, like after they shared, you know, being vulnerable and like sharing their story. It just, it was really, really great to see every week. And even in that, I know I touched on our host event with our Napa and San Francisco hosts earlier this week, but I was really touched by one of the stories. I think that Shelly from Napa told us, but that she had remembered from like, they're both longtime hosts, but that she had remembered, you know, a few years ago still that one of the team members had heard a ride dead from this, I think, pizza shop where they got free food for the day. And the next day that team member had, you know, given this person's ride dead to the team, and Shelly remembered, you know, hearing that, and just the fact that it stuck with her, like, you know, us, our ride dads, and like who we ride for, and like our willingness to make sure that we truly ride for everybody who has told us a ride dedication. And I remember her just telling us that story a couple days ago, and just thinking like, wow, like these really have an impact, and it's just, it was really nice to hear that.
One experience that really stands out to me is one time I was panhandling in downtown Austin, and I went into a record store to use the bathroom, and I was surprised because a lot of people recognize the Texas 4000 jersey, and I was stopped by like 2 or 3 people in that record store, and I was just asked to give a ride dedication at our next meeting. And it's really heartwarming that people recognize Texas 4000 and recognize what we do. And yeah, I'm really grateful that, you know, complete strangers were so vulnerable and so willing to open up. So yeah, that was like a really touching experience.
Definitely. And another ride dead person that I've been riding for this whole year is Mason. So I'll tell you.
Me too.
Is that your Chihuahua, Lisa?
That is my Chihuahua. Yes, Chiquita. She sometimes she normally sleeps all day, but sometimes she wakes up and, you know, just you know, I also, one of the ride dedications that I think is always like in the back of my mind is always riding for the teams that came before us, but the teams that are going to follow us. The 2021 team, I was one of the recruitment chairs, and so I had a really like intimate look into like how they are recruited and like helping with that process, and so they hold a very special place in my heart, and I can't wait for them to they're starting their journey in Texas 4000, and it just makes me really happy seeing them in the place that we were about a year ago. And so I'm always riding for them and everything that they're going to accomplish in this next year.
Thanks, Mariam. And if anybody is watching who is like an underclassmen or at UT, I definitely recommend joining Texas 4000. It was kind of a last minute decision for me, but it's been like one of the best experiences of my college career and like my life, like in general. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of like why the ride dedications are so important, because you don't necessarily have to have a personal connection or can like with cancer to join Texas 4000, because along the way, you become so personally connected to everyone else's stories. So these ride dedications are important because honestly, we all just end up riding for each other. So don't let that hesitate you from applying. So definitely recommend too.
And I love how every Saturday before our, big Saturday ride during training season, that we would all get together at, some ungodly early hour. It wasn't that early, but it was like 6:45. And we would, spend 15 or 20 minutes, giving ride deads, any maybe new ride deads during that week, or just, people saying their original reasons why they joined Texas 4000 and why they continue to ride. And it was always a really big motivator during those Saturday rides, especially as the rides got longer and more hillier, and there was more elevation. They served as a motivator for me, and I know my ride groups and the team, a motivator to like get up that hill and to go down it and get up the next one, because at the end of the day, we're doing something really great that's impacting so many communities, and we are carrying these people's stories, and we're going to successfully do that. So it was a really great way to get me up those hills and down Loop and Lime Creek. So yeah.
Even outside of biking, because I'm sure we can all attest that there was a lot involved in T4K outside of our time on the bike, and sometimes it would get overwhelming trying to plan travel stuff and community events. So I think that those ride dedications, like, honestly kept me going throughout every day, whether it was on the bike or not. So if you're just joining, I think we have two more minutes. So last call for any last ride dedications. You can comment on the Facebook live stream, on the YouTube comments, or on the Texas 4000 website. So you can send a quick last minute ride dead and we'll make sure to get to it. Oh, thank you, Avery.
She's our summer lead in 2021, the 2021 summer ride director. So really, she's doing really incredible things with them 2021, getting them geared up for their ride year. Thanks, Avery. And as always, if you have a ride dead any other time during the week, we're on live stream every morning. One of the routes, either Sierra Rockies or Ozarks, and we'll say your ride dead too.
And I believe Saturdays are Be the Match event. Is that correct?
Okay. Yes.
So yeah, there'll be ride deads all throughout the week. All right, so I think that's all of the ride deads we have for tonight. So we are going to say bye for a second as we get all set up on our timers. And yeah, we'll see you all in a few minutes.
Hi, and welcome back to the Texas 4000 for Cancer's 2020 Summer Ride Cycling broadcast presented by Abbott. My name is Kerry Rupp. I'm a board member for the Texas 4000, and I'm going to be your host tonight. I'm really excited because tonight we're going to be cycling along with riders from the Sierra route. We'll talk about it later, but there are 3 different routes, the Rockies and the Ozarks and the Sierra. And so tonight's broadcast is all about the Sierra route. And for those of you who don't know, I'll give you a little context about Texas 4000 before I bring in the riders and we start the virtual ride for tonight. But the Texas 4000 for Cancer is a nonprofit organization that cultivates student leaders and engages communities in the fight against cancer. The organization's big cornerstone event every year is this really exciting annual 4,000 plus mile bike ride from Austin, Texas to Anchorage, Alaska. I got to be at the finish line a couple years ago, and you can imagine after 90 plus days of cycling these 3 different routes, it's a really momentous occasion. And unfortunately, the 78 members of this year's 2020 team who have been preparing and training for this life-altering cross-country summer bike ride for the last 18 months and actually doing all the planning and learning about cancer prevention, volunteering, like literally cycling on their bikes to be ready for it. Due to COVID-19, they were forced as part of the leadership development process to learn how to make this really painful decision, which was really heartbreaking, honestly, to have to cancel that ride. So the pandemic brought, all of our worlds to a standstill. You're probably working from home or have some other kind of crazy, change in your life. But unfortunately, nothing changes with cancer. It rages on. I know that personally in my own life. My uncle is undergoing cancer treatment for prostate cancer, and he was still going into radiation appointments during this time. And frankly, he was actually lucky because there are lots of people for whom their cancer treatment is actually considered elective, and they weren't able to get their cancer treatment over the last couple months. But I also had a friend who was diagnosed with cancer during this time, and had to go through his surgery all alone in the hospital with no friends, and we haven't been able to visit him. And so all of those stories help you realize that even with all the outside change happening and the protections we have to make against COVID, cancer has to go on. And so the ride, the Texas 4000 ride has to go on. And so what the creative and resilient Texas 4000 for Cancer team did was basically to decide that for the month of June, they're going to ride virtually to Alaska. I'm so inspired by the individuals on this team who already made this commitment during their college years to go through this program, but then especially so for their resilience and their persistence and their creativity in swapping to this new format. We hope we're actually reaching new people because of this who didn't maybe know about the Texas 4000 for Cancer. But I would love to stop talking and tell you more about the actual team members themselves. So I'm going to bring on 3 of the team members from the Sierra route and introduce you to them. They helped host the ride dedication program, which was a half hour before this ride. And now they are on their bikes, virtually riding to Alaska. And so we're going to engage with them over the course of the next hour, learn more about the program and about them themselves. And so I'm going to make sure we can hear all of them on their bikes and have them each introduce themselves. So Simon, I'm going to have you go first if you can, and tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, what you're studying at UT, where you're from originally, and what motivated you to join the Texas 4000 team.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Simon. I'm on a really old stationary bike today, but a bike's a bike. And I just graduated from UT with a degree in public health.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I joined Texas 4000 originally from my dad, who had non-small cell lung cancer. But over the course of my 18-month involvement in Texas 4000, that list of people who I ride for has grown longer and longer. And I'm just so amazed by my teammates and, like you said, their resiliency, and very happy to be a part of this.
Awesome. And where are you from originally? Are you Texan originally?
Well, I was born in Sweden, but I've lived in Houston all my life. So.
Okay. And are you riding from Houston today? Or are you back in Austin?
Yeah. So I'm back home. I moved back home after I graduated, and I'm riding from Houston today.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Delisa, you're on
Hi.
mute. You're off mute now.
You can hear me?
Yep, I can hear you great.
Awesome. I'm Delisa. I, like Summin, graduated from UT in May with a degree in biology.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I am from Edinburgh, Texas, which is in the Rio Grande Valley, way down south, the very tip of Texas. And I'm biking from my home right now in Edinburgh. And some of the reasons that I joined T4K are for the Tommy, who passed away from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and Mr. Trejo, a high school teacher of mine who is a really favorite high school teacher of mine, who also passed away as soon as I came to college. But like someone said, I agree with everything she said about ride dads. The stories I carry on my rides and in everything I do affiliated with Texas 4000 has just grown. I've kind of I've adopted all of my teammates and their stories and their families and friends' stories, and every ride that we get on Monday meetings and Saturday rides, I kind of stow away in my own little list and ride for them as well. So
great. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Madeline?
Hi, I'm Madeline. I also graduated in May.
Wow, 3 of you all graduates. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. With a degree in International Relations and Global Studies. And I joined Texas 4000 because mostly I ride for my Nana, who passed away from melanoma when I was a freshman in high school. And she was living with us and in treatment at MD Anderson. And I just ride for her resiliency and her just grace throughout her battle. And just honestly, everyone that's going through cancer treatment right now, especially with COVID, I know it's putting additional strain and stress on her. So I'm riding in solidarity with them. And then I'm from Kingwood, Texas, and that's where I am right now, in my childhood home.
Awesome. Okay, so you're all riding from home, basically. And so you're not the only people riding tonight, right? You have a number of other teammates from the Sierra route who are also riding. We won't be able to hear from them directly tonight, but hopefully we'll be able to zoom in on videos of them riding. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about, how many people are on the Sierra route, how they get chosen, and what your virtual route is replicating. What does the Sierra route do over the course of the summer?
So yeah, there's about 22 of us, I think. And normally we'd be going the Sierra route, so that's kind of the west coast of the US. And right now we are riding on Sunday mornings and Wednesday nights, as well as the whole team rides on Saturdays over Facebook Live and Zoom.
Great. Yeah. So for those of you in the audience, we have about, I think, 78 2020 team riders, and the ride gets divided up into 3 routes. And so this team that you're seeing today, this portion of the team does the Sierra route. The other routes include the Rockies, which obviously goes through, Denver in the middle of the country. And then the Ozarks was the last route to be added, and it goes through a big part of the country where there's a lot of cancer diagnosis. And then the teams all meet up. Where do they normally meet up? Somewhere in Canada, I think, or is it before they cross the border?
in Canada, 10 days before the end of the ride, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So they're actually on their own sort of separate journeys generally, and then come together for those last 10 days going into Alaska. So we're going to spend the next, 50 minutes or so learning a lot more about the program, about the ride, about the approach to hope, knowledge, and charity in the fight against cancer, about the leadership development program. We're going to have guests actually continuing to do ride dedications. So if any of you are watching online, please feel free to talk about someone that you would be riding for, you want the riders to ride for. You put it in the comments. We'll display it up on the screen. And I'm going to start with some questions for the team riders themselves. But if you have questions that you want to learn about how this program works, feel free to put them either in the Facebook Live comments or on the YouTube Live comments, and we'll try to take those questions. Okay. So I think one of the things, so I've been on the board of Texas 4000 for several years. And when I first came to know about it, I really knew about it as a bike ride. I knew that it was about raising money for cancer and that it was about, hosting, programs in order to get people aware of cancer, but I didn't fully understand the importance of this leadership program element of it. And really, at the end of the day, that is what the program is. You guys are all students at UT, or all three of you just graduated, but this takes a big portion of your time in college. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about like what that really entails, so that the viewers tonight can understand that it's not just about cycling, which is obviously a hard endeavor in and of itself, but that you guys are actually really engaged in a whole lot of other things over the course of your 2 years in preparation. So maybe Delisa, I'll have you talk a little bit about the leadership development program.
Yeah, so like Kerry said, we are what you would call a student development organization at UT, as well as, being the simultaneous nonprofit organization that Texas 4000 is normally known as, but being a recruitment chair for Texas 4000 early on in my T4K journey, we talked a lot about student development and how that basically how that's one of the big aspects of Texas 4000, that we come in and we're not just biking all the time. Like Kerry said, contrary to popular belief, that doesn't take up my entire life, but we also do a lot of volunteer events throughout our 18 months as part of Texas 4000, and we fundraise, each of us $4,500 to go towards the fight against cancer, and to go towards granting out to cancer research centers and support services. But also, just in terms of the structure of Texas 4000, it really gives students and riders an opportunity to kind of take in like more of a leadership role in the organization. We have, starting immediately as you join Texas 4000, you're able to apply to a number of positions. You could be volunteer coordinator, you can be a recruitment chair, or a rider who helps to organize our big events, Tribute and Atlas, at the beginning and end of each summer ride. And these opportunities are really great to kind of like refine just like really good communication skills, and that are just like really necessary in any career and any sort of path after college and after T4K. And I'm really grateful. I was part of quite a few leadership opportunities. It was very accessible. There was no prerequisite, as long as I had, or any of us had, like a passion for, serving the organization, serving our other riders, for kind of doing maybe a little bit more, we were able to do that. And it's been a really, really great learning experience for me, having done positions where I've been a chair in charge of a committee and even part of a committee. It's just been incredible. Like I feel like my communication has gotten better. Like public speaking, I'm really horrible at public speaking. Exactly. And I'm doing it right now. Every week or so, I'd have to stand up in front of a team, having meetings with staff members, weekly. So a lot of those things just really, really help to engage riders a little bit more and kind of give them a lot of skills necessary for, future success in Texas 4000, but just in life in general. So
I think you made such a really good point, Delisa, that when you are a college student, it can be really hard to get those experiences to put on your resume that you need to get your, jobs, maybe even in the summer jobs, but also for your jobs out of college. And there's this chicken and egg problem of you need experience to get the roles. And so this is a great place for you to actually start to develop that. One of the things that came out of me getting much more engaged in Texas 4000 was realizing that this organization is a really great recruitment pool. So I run a venture capital fund with my partner, Sarah, here in Austin. So we do a lot of helping companies find great team members. And what we've been trying to, as an organization, help educate the community about is when you see Texas 4000 on someone's resume or on their LinkedIn, that it means you've got a really resilient, impressive, poised person on your hands that you ought to really look really carefully at. It should be a qualifier that kind of bumps the resume up to the top of the list. And so when we engage with corporate sponsors, we don't just engage with, the giants and the CLIFs of the world who are very involved in the cycling side of things, but we have a number of other sponsors who are actually really interested in the talent pool of the student leaders who are the people that are actually in this organization, who have dedicated all this time of their college career to volunteering, to training, to supporting cancer organizations. And so I thought I'd just quickly tell the audience the 8 foundational leadership skills that the students focus on over the course of the summer. So they include, over the course of the whole 2-year program, they include self-awareness, communication, resiliency, efficient planning, peer respect, situational leadership, technical knowledge and skills, vision, and action. And so it really gives you a sense of the breadth of the things that we put the students through over the course of the couple 2 years. So you mentioned, Elisa, a number of leadership positions and things that you were able to do. Madeline, do you want to tell us about the leadership or the committee roles that you took on during the course of the Texas 4000?
Yeah, definitely. So, like Lisa, one of the things I didn't notice before joining T4K is how many moving parts there really are and how many committees there are to put everything together. So I was the Sierra, or currently am the Sierra programs coordinator, and so I helped put together the programs that we would present now virtually over the summer and throughout the year. And then I was also on the fitness committee, so that involves more of the actual cycling. So we would plan weekly rides, the Saturday rides, the routes themselves. And lastly, I was also involved on the travel committee, and the travel committee literally helps plan all the hosts throughout the summer, the routes we take. And I mean, this summer, the Sierra route, completely rerouted, and we're planning to visit new cities. So it was really exciting to be part of that committee.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that the viewers probably don't realize is that we actually had to go through a lot of contingency planning over the course of COVID coming out. And so it took a while to realize, that it was going to ultimately end up that unfortunately the team would make the decision to, switch from the full ride to Alaska to a virtual ride. And so in the interim, there were interim plans, which were shorter routes, shorter rides, detours, et cetera. And so the teams had to get, really creative and resilient and flexible around rerouting plans and really learning the importance of contingency planning and having not only a plan A and a plan B, but a plan C and a plan D, and really put together this entire new format of connecting with you guys online, of continuing to show their dedication to riding for this cause within really a matter of weeks, actually, right? I mean, so it's pretty just a showcase of the student leadership that they've developed by actually being able to put together this kind of program. So Simon, why don't you tell us a little bit about the leadership activities that you took on during your time at Texas 4000?
Yeah, so I was a part of the Gears Committee, it's a newer committee. It was created to address the mental health concerns of riders, and basically my role was I would do something that we called Gears Hangs, where we got to know riders one-on-one and just chatted about their interests, what they were afraid of on the ride, what intimidated them, what they were excited for. And I think the Gears Committee really helped me learn how to be vulnerable. And I was really inspired by my teammates who were so ready to be so open. And I really got to learn more about everybody's really inspiring stories. And it was a great experience overall.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point to bring up the fact that the Gears Committee is new. Obviously, the organization has evolved and gotten more sophisticated over time. So I think the first ride was about 17 years ago, when Chris Condit, who's the founder of the organization and had been I think childhood leukemia survivor, put together this plan with a couple of his classmates to do this maverick ride from Austin to Alaska over the course of the summer. And you'll hear stories of, them being desperate for Subway sandwiches when the time they got to Alaska, and, the sort of unplanned campsites, and really honestly some great reception by the UT alum in Anchorage who were really welcoming to them at the end of this really intense ride. But it was, pretty novel new idea, and it didn't have a lot of the structure, and it was just one route and one group in the first year. And over the course of time, the organization has gotten more sophisticated, put more structure in place, put more real specific programming around the leadership development program, but also added other components. So the gears component, and really thinking about the mental health and the challenges of both being a full-time student at a top-tier university and usually, honestly, having people in your life that are dealing with cancer that you're having to go through the emotional deals with, and being an adolescent growing into an adult, which is just challenging enough in and of itself, and then doing this very, very intensive program was a great new addition that bubbled up out of the students themselves seeing the need for that. Other initiatives that we've done have been diversity programs, looking to better diversify both the gender and ethnic balance of the team and try to match it to UT's student profile. And so, and a lot of these things bubble up from the students realizing what things are really, the next evolution of the ride. And so it's been fun to see the organization over time get more sophisticated. So we're going to take a little break and actually go sort of see some of the other riders from the Sierra's route. So we're going to switch the screen over, and maybe they can't actually talk to us, but we can see a number of them riding. Looks like a lot of people in their houses, maybe back also at home with their families. I don't see any bikes as cool as yours, Summon. No one seems to have the old school 80s Aerodyne. Are you a fan on that thing? Is it actually like blowing air up at you?
No, I'm honestly really surprised it's working. This is my mom's old bike from like 30 years ago. But it's a new challenge.
On it before you got on it?
Did it have what?
Like clothes hanging on it, like most.
Yeah, it definitely did. Definitely did.
It looks like we've got a mix of people on trainers, like on their actual bikes. So the bikes are actually done in conjunction with one of our sponsors, Giant, who helps support the ride. And we'll put up a list of the sponsors later on so we can, really talk about the corporate organizations who have really seen that this is an organization they want to get behind. We want to thank the rest of the Sierra riders who are here tonight. It looks like some people are really hustling away over there. If any of you in the viewing audience have trainers at home or Pelotons, we encourage you to actually join along. So the students are riding on a schedule every day over the course of June, which you can see at the texas4000.org website. I believe what we're doing is Monday and Tuesday, the rides are in the morning. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they're in the evening. Saturday morning and Sunday morning. You can check me on that. But the other thing that happens over the course of the week is on Saturday afternoons around 5 p.m., there's actually some programming. So the Sierra riders told you a little bit about that it's not just about hope and charity, but it's also about knowledge. And so the students actually learn a lot about cancer prevention and do programs throughout the course of the year. There's a cancer screening event for skin cancer screening. They also go to different organizations and talk about cancer prevention. And so they, on the Saturdays of this virtual ride, we're going to engage with different organizations to which we give grants and that we work with. And so this Saturday at 5, we'll have another one of those. So we're going to wave goodbye to the Sierra riders for now. We'll pull them up again and check in on them, making sure they're not slacking off on their ride before we finish the program. I thought this might be a good time to switch and talk a little bit about what we're doing with this fundraising. So, Delisa, you mentioned that each of the riders in the program has to raise $4,500 each over the course of the program. And then, of course, there are other events that happen. I think you mentioned Atlas, which normally is the first day of the ride out of Austin, usually around like June 1st, where the public can actually join in the first ride of the spectacle off to Alaska. And then there's a finish line festival. There's a bunch of activities for kids, face painting and little ride for the kids, but also a way for the students to connect with their friends and family before they head off on their journey. And so that's usually a fundraising event. And then to cap the end of this, the ride, we have the tribute gala, which usually happens in mid-August after the riders have all come back. Usually everyone gets really dressed up, and it's a big event where we do a silent auction and a live auction and also raise money for the event. So we're going to do a different version of that this year. It's going to be a virtual event at the end of this ride. So we want to encourage all the viewers that are tuning in here to also join us for the culmination of the event. One of the fun things about that event, or the fun things, is a lot of the riders over the course of the year grew their hair long, and at the beginning of the season we have this event called Clip Out Cancer, and all these people chop off their hair, like literally like hold onto their hair and like take scissors and chop it off. And so you've got a lot of people with like buzz cuts and like awkwardly grown out hair, kind of reminiscent of like people's COVID hair over the last couple of months. So did you guys have people on your Sierra route who did that?
We did. We hosted Clip Out Cancer. Normally, Texas 4000 participates in St. Baldrick's Brave the Shave event. That's part of UT and one of another UT Austin organization, incredible organization that like helps with childhood cancer and whatnot. But since this year it got canceled due to COVID, like so many other things, we decided to host our own kind of Brave the Shave-esque event, and we called it Texas 4000 Clip Out Cancer. And it was a pun that was thought up by one of our riders' moms, actually Tony's mom, who thought of a bunch of different names, and it's a pun of, like clipping out hair and then clipping out like on the pedals of the bike. But anyway, we had, I want to say, 6 or 7 riders participate. It was the kickoff to this virtual event, or this virtual ride, and all these rides this month. And it was really great to hear their stories and why they are shaving their heads to stand in solidarity with those fighting cancer, especially through this time, or to cut their hair very short and donate long locks to nonprofits and other organizations that benefit cancer patients. And I want to say, from the Sierra, we had our ride director, Philip, who shaved his head, and Burzin, who had shaved his head a few weeks ago prior, but again, for the same reasons, and for another organization he's a part of. So we had a lot of support. I remember I was moderating that event, and it was just comment after comment of everybody else on the team just cheering each other on, and it was a really, really great way, at least for me, to start off this whole virtual ride experience.
That's great. Yeah. Awesome. So there's a lot of history that goes along with the year after year. And so you're seeing the 2020 team here, but there's, 17 years behind them, and the alumni, stay really involved. So a lot of times at the Atlas ride, a number of prior years teams come and ride that event. And then, of course, the next year's team, like the 2021 team, actually does a lot of support for activities that the 2020 team is doing, as part of the volunteer efforts. So let's talk a little bit about what the process looks like for deciding where the funds that are raised by the team and the events and by the corporate sponsorships actually goes. How does the Texas 4000 decide who to grant the funds to? Summon or Madeline, do you want to answer that, since Delisa just took a long one?
Yeah, I can go ahead. So they are decided by our grants committee, and then after the grants committee decides, which is normally made up of board members and former riders, or riders that just rode, and then the next summer they go and deliver them throughout the ride. So when we visit hospitals or other kids' party organizations, we can bring those grants.
Yep. And so each year, so sometimes there are organizations to whom we, grant gifts every year, or in multiple years in a row. And then each year also, sometimes the riders bring up new organizations that they want to bring into the fold, given their own prior relationship with that organization, or just because it hits a mission that they are looking for. So there's a mix of organizations that the Texas 4000 gives to. A number of them are cancer research organizations, so looking towards a cure for cancer. So those include MD Anderson, of course, having here in Texas, one of the premier cancer organizations in the world, UT's Biomedical Engineering Department, and UT's Dell Medical School, who are doing a number of different initiatives around cancer research. The Fred Hutch Cancer Center in Seattle, I believe they are going to be one of the Saturday programs, maybe the second Saturday coming up, where you'll get to learn about what they've been doing in the cancer research area and how the Texas 4000 grants have actually impacted their work. But in addition, because the Texas 4000 mission is about hope, knowledge, and charity, it's not all just about getting to a cure. There are cancer support service organizations across all 3 routes that the riders would normally visit along the way. And those include Texas Children's in Houston, Oxnard in New Orleans, and they participated in last Saturday's 5 p.m. event, and that's available to watch on video if you weren't able to be there the first time. We had a really nice conversation with 2 of their members there. Brent's Place in Denver, the San Juan Regional in Farmington, New Mexico, and these are just some examples. They do things like provide safe, clean housing for people that are going through cancer treatment. They provide transportation programs, survivorship programs. Sometimes we have programs that are focused on different demographics. So kids going through cancer have, just a different set of needs, both from a mental health perspective and just trying to understand what they're going through than adults do. And so we're really looking to support programs for underserved groups and communities where we train and where we ride. And so that's another great opportunity for the Texas 4000 riders to start to, cultivate a mindset of stewardship, starting to understand philanthropy, how it works, how they might decide to get engaged in that as they go forward and become adults after college. And so that's gives you a sense of the kind of organizations that we donate to. This year, obviously, we unfortunately can't go give the checks along the way. And that's why we're doing these virtual engagements. And then we'll continue to, once the COVID situation changes, be able to go visit the organizations over the course of the next year. So speaking of kind of carrying through things that you learned from Texas 4000 into your adult life, there's this stewardship and philanthropy effort. I understand, though, that a lot of students also stay in the healthcare realm or stay connected to cancer as they leave Texas 4000. So we talked about you guys graduating, but we didn't talk about where you're heading next. And are any of you guys doing something with cancer? Or do you have teammates who are actually going to be moving forward into the healthcare arena? I know one of you was a biology major.
Yeah, we have a lot of actually a good portion of our 2020 team is pursuing or has graduated with some sort of science or like healthcare related degree and is like looking to go into healthcare. We have a few writers, I think, who got into med school for this upcoming fall. And so that was really, really exciting to kind of see them fulfill their dreams and go on to do that, or they will go on in the fall. But yeah, I think healthcare is a really big thing. And I know personally, I graduated in biology and I want to go to grad school to maybe not pursue cancer research directly, but just biology research that is going to help communities and, improve qualities of life of people affected by like really horrible diseases. And I think one thing Texas 4000 has really taught me is that, it's really connected the research aspect and the community aspect of science and research and medicine for me. Like listening to the Oshner program and just hearing from alumni and previous organizations that we've granted to how our charity and how what we're doing has impacted and affected their research, which has directly impacted, the quality of life of cancer patients in terms of accessibility or treatment options or whatever it is. And I think it's really great to see that connection. It keeps me going and me motivated in my own research projects, and just knowing that my work and the work of so many other scientists has a direct impact on communities and societies. And yeah,
I think that's a great time to make a call to the audience to also understand that we are looking, obviously, as part of this virtual ride for donations, so that we can go ahead and make these grants. So the students over the course of their time in the program have fundraising goals along the way that they meet to stay qualified for the program. And they do that through a mixture of actually panhandling. If you live here in Austin, you may have seen them out on street corners. I kind of tend to see them around Lamar and Fifth. Back when we were out in our cars and leaving the house, but also learning to actually, do fundraising through their networks and, through their communities. But obviously a big portion of the ride is also about getting awareness along the way and connecting with donors. And so this is our virtual way of doing that. And so we'd really like to remind you that if you were inspired, which I can't imagine how you couldn't be, by the efforts that these students are undergoing and also just their resilience in finding a new path to stay going forward this summer, we really encourage you to go to texas4000.org and click the donate button and contribute to their efforts to make these grants to the organizations that are, spreading hope, knowledge, and charity in the fight against cancer. So please make sure you do that. I'm going to switch to an audience question, which is a really interesting one. So obviously there's actually a pretty rigorous application process to get into the Texas 4000. So it's not just that you want to do it and that you have an inspiration, but we obviously want to pick student leaders who are going to contribute to the organization that are going to actually have the dedication to get through this entire program, the rigorous goals around training, around fundraising, around committing to the leadership efforts, and oh yeah, by the way, completing your school degree like while you're at it, and having a social life and all those other things. And so as people who are interested in the organization think about what might they need to do to qualify and what things should they think about, what advice would you give to UT students who are interested in applying? And I think I'll go around to all three of you because you probably have some different perspectives just given where you came from. So Summon, how about you go first and let us know what you think UT students should consider if they want to apply.
Yeah, so I would say that consider your plans, not just for the upcoming year, but for the year after. When you apply to Texas 4000, you're entering about a 2-year-long commitment. So you want to make sure that your plans can align with Texas 4000. But also beyond that, I would say to not get too intimidated and just start the application. And yeah, just keep an open mind because you're going to learn a lot more about yourself than you ever thought possible. So you should definitely just get started and get excited. It's an exciting application process, in my opinion.
Madeline?
Yeah, kind of going off what someone said, like, don't be intimidated to apply. If you don't have like a personal, I talked about this a little bit in ride applications, but even if you don't have maybe like a personal like connection, like story about something in your life that will insert, like you should still apply because your teammates' stories become your own and you end up writing for them. So don't let that stop you. It's a really great organization, and I would just say like talk to people that you know that are in it, alumni, ask them questions about their experience and the commitment, because it is a huge commitment. But don't let it intimidate you. Just ask some questions at home.
I think it's a really good point, Madeline, is that, talking to other writers, understanding, like we're doing right now with you guys getting advice, but understanding like what it was like for them, because everyone has a unique, experience on the team as well. So Jaleesa, anything you want to add to that? There we go.
Okay. I think going off of what Summon and Maddie said, it's really important to. Sometimes it's hard to not see all of these incredible people applying, and sometimes I look at my incredible teammates and like all that they're doing and like their really powerful stories, and sometimes it's hard to not think like, why am I a part of this org? But you really have to just like turn that around, and your story matters. Everybody's story matters, whether you have been personally affected by cancer, whether you're just really passionate about spreading knowledge to communities that don't have that, except that ready accessibility. Whatever it is, your story matters and your reason for wanting to apply matters. So don't let any sort of doubt creep in. Like, you are so worthy of being a part of Texas 4000. You will learn so much, in just biking, in your physical strength and how far you can push yourself in that sense, and in student development, and just how I don't know. It's kind of overwhelming, thinking of T4K as a whole, but the people you meet and the network you create, and just the stories you hear and the skills that you refine. There's way more reasons to apply, amazing reasons that I think everybody should give it a shot. But yeah.
Lisa, you have a really good point about each individual's stories and the compelling people that are part of the organization. So I've, at the tribute gala every year, I've brought friends who weren't connected to the organization before. And so, we show a video of the team experience and what they go through over the course of the ride. And my friends are just always in awe of these students and their backstories and what's driving them. And for those of you who want to connect with more of those stories, the Texas 4000 website actually has blogs and stories for each of the riders where you can actually get to know their backstory. And if you follow the team on social media, we have a presence on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and we like to profile different riders over the course of the year. And so honestly, in this time with so much stress related to COVID and social change and the economy, it's really uplifting to read the stories of the riders. And so that's why we're doing these broadcasts, to have you have an opportunity to join and meet them live. But if you're looking for something to perk you up during the day, I would highly encourage you to go meet one of the riders virtually online through the website and see these different stories. And we have 17 years of alumni. So it's a really powerful organization that we're building up and creating these great students that we send off into the world. It's funny because none of you mentioned it, but obviously one of the other things that could be intimidating for people that want to join the Texas 4000 is the idea of a 4,000 plus mile bike ride. I'm a cyclist, and I've never ridden more than 100 miles in a day, and I've certainly never done that multiple days in a row. I've done the MS 150 a couple times, so that's like 100 and then 80. And so what's really interesting is how many people haven't been cyclists before they join the team. And in fact, there have been people who have not ridden bikes before they ride in the Texas 4000 team. So do you want to talk a little bit about like how people get acclimated to bike riding and what that program is like, what the training program is like? Did all of you, were all of you cyclists before you joined, or was this a new initiative?
Summon, you should start.
Yeah, so I didn't know how to ride a bike before I joined Texas 4000. So it was a very steep acclimation process, but it was amazing. And honestly, like not knowing how to ride a bike shouldn't hold anybody back from applying. It was really great because like, I guess all my teammates came together to kind of like teach me how to ride a bike. And at first, yes, it was very difficult. Just the physical process of teaching your body how to like, power through like 2-hour-long bike rides, 3 hours. And we worked our way up to about like 8-hour bike rides. It's grueling, but also, I mean, everybody does it. You just get through it because you have your teammates with you, and you're really surprised. Like when you roll into the CPU parking lot and you're done with like an 8-hour bike ride, really proud of yourself. And that feeling is pretty much unrivaled. So I'd say that even though it is like a pretty grueling process, it's really physical. Like I'm tired right now and I've been biking for 45 minutes, but I'd say like.
But you're on that very challenging bike. Could be the 80s old school bike.
Yeah.
Dragging you down.
Oh yeah.
So maybe this is a good time to check in on the other riders, make sure none of them are slacking off from their 45-minute bike ride. So yeah, as we said, we have 78 riders or so on the team this year, and they're all riding over the course of June. So if you tune in on other days, you'll see different riders sweating it out. And so when you think about accumulating those 78 riders and the $4,500 that they're each raising, and then the money that comes in from the other events, we're actually able to make some pretty significant grants to these organizations. So it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars each year that the Texas 4000 gives out. And it's really important, especially this year where we didn't have the same fundraising cycle, to be able to still deliver on those grants. And so just, wanted to put in one more plug for if you're inspired by what this group of writers is doing and their persistence, is to donate money so that we can continue to give grants to the organizations who have turned, to rely on us year after year to support their cancer research programs and their support services programs for people that are dealing with cancer. So just wanted to make that plug. We're going to go back to another audience question. And so Megan Luters, who is our current board chair, wants to know what people's biggest learnings are from their Texas 4000 experience. And I'll give you guys a second to really think about that, because obviously there's a really wide range of things it could be about, right? There's the physical change that you have to go through to become so resilient and have the endurance to undergo this. There's the social interaction of, working with other students through really challenging decisions sometimes. I mean, obviously this 2020 team that had to go through the decision of how they were going to, you know, recover from this change in circumstances. Everyone obviously had different opinions, different places they were coming from. So, you know, going through the day-to-day squabbles that can happen on the team versus, you know, also these big decisions that can happen. The learning that happens from, you know, learning about cancer, dealing with your family situations or your mentors, the people that you're trying to, you know, memorialize through your efforts. And then balancing all of this with just the difficulty of college life and actually getting through your classes and deciding who you're going to be when you get out of college, and all of that. So, you know, layering this on top of your regular college life is just a lot. And so we'd love to hear if any of you have a particular learning that's come out of your experience with Texas 4000. Anyone want to volunteer?
I can start. I think mine, there's been so many lessons, so that's a big one to kind of tackle. But I think two things that have stood out throughout these past 18 months have been empathy and resilience. I think it's really important for us all to have empathy for each other and have learned to empathize with others in a way that I haven't before. I mean, you go through really tough rides together. You hear each other's really tough stories, and like developing this sense of empathy while also working towards a common goal is really important. And I think that's how you develop good teams in the future, is truly like learning the other people's perspectives and bringing those together. And then also resiliency, not setting limits for yourself. I mean, I know for a majority of us, this is not something we ever imagined each other doing, and even if we're not doing the summer ride, just what we accomplished up to this point, having to come up with these contingency plans, like, it wasn't always easy. It wasn't easy to meet over Zoom when we were just meeting in person almost every day of the week. So I think that we've had to be resilient and come together in a way we didn't necessarily expect, but in a way we still grew from that. And it kind of connected us to our mission even further, because we had to find a new way to pursue this mission that wasn't necessarily what we expected, or there wasn't like precedent for it. So I think that was the biggest experience us so far.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, it's so often that the unexpected thing that you have to go through is where you get a bigger lesson than, you know, achieving the goal that you kind of were already setting out to do. And you guys have had to do that in spades with the, you know, changes from this year. So thank you for continuing to follow through. Either of the two of you want to weigh in? You don't have to if you don't have something you want to share. Delisa's going to be great. Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest, I was thinking about this like throughout Maddie's response, but I think for me the biggest learning experience was working as a team. And that kind of, you know, that's a very broad statement, but I think it really just goes to show, like I was on a few committees and I was in the role of a couple of chairs. And I think that, you know, every Sunday we had this leadership meeting where, you know, we were kind of all, you know, 15 or 20 leadership team members of all different, you know, ranks. We had RDs, chairs, committee members, you know, in the mix, and making decisions that would like directly impact the organization, and having to come to those decisions as a team together was sometimes, it wasn't always easy. It was, you know, sometimes it was like tense, and we would have like these arguments because every one of us is like super, super passionate about this organization and what comes out of it and like what our team does. And like, it was really great. It really helped me refine skills like active listening and like, you know, how to just get my point across better in team settings. And I think that, wow, I totally blanked out, but.
Well, no, I mean, it was a really important point. I mean, especially in what's going on in the world around us today, being able to understand how to listen to the other side, but how to still communicate your point and how to navigate that effectively effective communication
Exactly.
can be actually quite challenging, and it's a learned skill. And it's not something that you're gonna like. Generally, it's not taught in your English class or in your whatever class. It's taught through like interpersonal interactions. And so those are the leadership skills that this organization allows you the opportunity to learn. And sometimes you learn through an interchange not going well and having to like repair it after the fact. And so having places where you're working towards a common goal and you can kind of have those conversations is a really valuable platform for students to actually be able to learn from. So
yeah, and then I was just gonna say I remembered it like popped in my brain as you were talking, but like a lot of other organizations where I've had to work in a team setting, they were we would make a decision and then it would go to like the next, like maybe the professor who would like ultimately make the final decision of whatever was trying to be solved. And in this organization, it was so different because with so much of it is devoted to student development and student leadership that whatever we were deciding was literally going to make a direct impact on the organization. So the pressure was a little bit higher, and I think those like higher stakes were good because like you kind of realize, everybody on the team realized I matter. My presence, my dedication, my passion for this matters, and it's going to have a direct influence on how this team does and the success and the money we raise. So I think having that much student development, put into the team, put into like each team is really, really important, and like even developing those skills even better.
Awesome. Cool. All right, Seven, did you have something you wanted to contribute?
Yeah, I just want to add on to what Delisa said, is that like everybody in T4K is so passionate, and I think that's what sets us apart from different student orgs, is that like everybody is like a go-getter, everyone is like takes initiative, and something I think the greatest lesson I've learned is how to be vulnerable. Like we said before, like we start every meeting with about 20 to 30 minutes of the ride deads, where we open up and we share like why we're writing, and just seeing like week after week everybody like open up like the most like intimate parts of themselves has just taught me how to be like much more comfortable with myself. And I think that's just a really important lesson to learn, like as you grow older and as you become more aware of yourself and who you are in the world. It's really important to be vulnerable with others as well as yourself. So, yeah.
It's a really good point, and I think we obviously start each one of these virtual rides with a half hour of ride dedications in order to really indoctrinate that into this virtual experience. We start the board meetings for the Texas 4000 the same way. And it isn't always about people with cancer or people that we're honoring who have passed from cancer, but sometimes it's, the 2020 team writing for themselves, for their teammates, or writing for the staff who've been helping them along, or for people in their life who are going through other things that they're challenged with. And I think it is a great way to start, stop and recognize where you are, who needs help, what you're thankful for, those kinds of things. And so it's a really nice grounding part of each of the Texas 4000 interactions. So I want to go to another audience question from Denise, who's asked about what the T4K staff is all about. Who are they? What are they doing behind the scenes? And how do they support the student writers? Because we've been talking a lot, obviously, with the students about the students. So we literally have T4K staff right now as like the man behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz, helping orchestrate this program. So Ross, thank you for being here tonight to do that. And Scott's been doing it a lot as well. So we have a small but mighty staff that has been literally working around the clock with the writers over the course of the last 2 or 3 months to shift, make this decision, change this program, and help facilitate and support this. So our executive director, Scott Cruz, has been with the organization for several years now, and helps really guide this skeleton crew that we have that's keeping the continuity of the programming over time. Obviously, the students become such a fundamental part of planning their own ride each year, holding each other accountable to the leadership program and to the guidelines and around fundraising and around training. But then we also have the curriculum and the sort of the legacy of what's worked before and what we suggest might need moderation going forward. And then the fundraising aspects that happen outside of the team fundraising with the events that we do, like with Atlas and with Tribute, and then with corporate relations. And so Ross heads up our program team. He has a couple other team members that help him there, and they literally work with the students. They spend a bunch of time on campus. Actually, our new office is closer to campus, so the students can come and actually spend time at the office as well. But working with the students on the leadership development program, helping Ride leadership actually build themselves into their roles and start taking over more of the responsibility, but also providing the guidance of what things need to happen at different times throughout the year and the structure around that, and then passing it along to the next team as we bring the next team in. And then Shannon runs our development group, which is doing a lot of the events, the communications to our broader audience. So we engage, the riders actually manage the relationship with the hosts who they stay with along the way when they're not camping or, sort of stuck in more rural accommodations. But over the course of the year and over the course of, sort of the many years, we maintain relationship with those hosts, with those sponsors that are actually helping with, the CLIF bars and things like that get delivered to the students. And so they create the infrastructure that help us keep this organization going from year to year. And so along with the team, they've really had to be resilient and persistent over the last couple of months in particular, sort of reframing who Texas 4000 is going to be this year and how we move forward into the future with this change this year. So I want us to be able to say goodbye to the other Sierra riders. So let's switch over there for one more sort of wave at those guys. Thank you guys for your persistence and riding along. Hope you're not too hot. I don't see any fans in any of these rooms. For those of you who aren't in Texas, it's about 95 degrees outside. And so we're hoping people's air conditioning is working. I guess the benefit is they get to control how hard the hills are going to be. Whereas over the course of the summer, when they're riding to Alaska and going through the Rockies or the Sierras or the Ozarks, there's some pretty intense hills. When I went out to Alaska to watch the team cross the finish line a couple years ago, we did the day before they came into town. We drove up into a rest stop and met the team in the in the mountains outside of Anchorage. And got to get a sense of just the grandeur and the scope of how big it is when you're riding across the country. And so those hills are intense. The Summons bike's hills look a little different on her inside bike. But the key thing here is that the team has just been, amazing in continuing to persevere over the course of the summer. So I just want to sort of say goodbye. Thanks to the rest of the Sierra route. And asked Elisa and Madeline and Summit if there's sort of anything that we didn't talk about Texas 4000 that the audience might want to know before we say goodbye to them for tonight. Any components of the program that we didn't touch on? Are you guys getting to do any outside bike riding as well this summer, or are you doing everything on your trainer?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. I've been doing a couple bike rides as well, but I haven't yet joined the Zoom call. So that will be one of my next things is to actually join alongside with you guys on a future ride. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. Don't forget to donate at texas4000.org. And on that same homepage for the Texas 4000 website, we keep a running schedule of what's happening for the week ahead. So we'll have rides tomorrow night, Friday night, Saturday, we'll have a ride in the morning, but also the programming with one of the grantees. And that's a great way to hear a little bit more about the cancer prevention and screening programs that the students put up together, get a different angle than you get on these daily rides with the team. So thanks so much for joining us. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Guys.